Well, a lovely day for fishing today. The sun's out, reasonably mild. I'm on the Great Ouse. It's a wild river in the Fens. The Fens is a bit like Holland. It's like very, very flat, reclaimed from the sea. I don't know, 300 or 400 years ago, I think, by famous Dutch engineers, where they built loads of drains to drain off the water. Even my house is on the floodplain. I think if the Dutch engineers hadn't done it, my house wouldn't be there now. So what am I going to do today? This is, as I say, it's a wild river, but it's got a good head of roach, skimmers, bream though usually on the feeder, and some massive perch as well. Don't know whether we'll catch it. Last time I was out, I had a perch over £3 and on this venue. This is sort of somewhere I come just to have a fish. It's lovely. Wind on our backs, westerly wind on our backs. It's called the River Great Ouse. This time of year it doesn't really flow that hard. In the winter it can be belting through, but at the moment I think fairly still. So I'm going to try and catch some fish on tears today, which I've never ever done in a video before. So I'll try and catch some fish on tears, but it's 2 or 3 rigs, so let's have a look at what I'm going to do. So I'm going to fish, I've put a 3-gram rig up there. This is a DT Nevis float, 3-gram rig, fairly positive. It's deep here, something like 4 to 5 metres, and not far out, it just drops straight off. So good and deep close in. Put a 15 hook on there, a fairly positive rig. If there's lots of fish, I'll probably be on that one. And then I'll put a similar, but a 2-gram rig on. Oh, notice on the top there, look, I've got some black silicone. For years I was ruining floats by painting them black. Now I put a bit of black silicone over, and if the light changes I can just pull that silicone off and the yellow would be completely visible. Yellow's really good when you're fishing in a darker background with the sun behind you. Yellow's a brilliant colour. So that's a 2-gram, 16 hook on that, so a bit of a lighter rig, but for catching the same thing, for catching skimmers, roach, a bit of everything. And there's the rig that I've made up for tears, and I've left that coloured. It's got a bigger bristle on there. Tears are quite heavy, so you need a thicker bristle. I'll be fishing probably just off bottom with tears. So a nice thick bristle. We don't have to worry about being ultra sensitive. The bites are always good. And I'll show you the setting later, but you have the olivet more up in the air, so it sort of drops slowly through the water. So there's my 3 rigs, and I'm going to, you won't believe this, look. This is, in this, which weighs, it doesn't weigh nothing, but I tell you, it doesn't weigh very much. Look, I can hold it with 1 finger. I've got 3 8-metre and 1 10-metre Silverlight sphere take apart whips. So I've got 4 poles in that. They're so slim and light. Brilliant. I use these all the time on the Norfolk Broads, where I'm only fishing 6 or 7 metres, on the Fenland drains, once again, when you're only fishing short. They're just fantastic, easy to set up, lovely to use. Well, I think that's about it. We'll have a look, and before long I think I'll be catching some fish. Let's take a look at the bait I'm going to use. I've got a few dendrobinas, nice big worms, really fresh. There is perch here, and I'm going to chop a few up for the skimmers. And then I hope this is going to be my killer bait. These are called tears. They're sort of I think they're a pea of some sort, but the roach this time of year love them. Take a pride in how I do the tears. They need to be fairly firm. They don't want to be too mushy because you can't put them on the hook, so they need to be fairly firm. And I do mine in microwave. Lovely. Prepare them, and then a bit of bicarbonate of soda, which gives them that black, that dark look. It's almost the time for elderberries now, so whether that's something to do with it or not, I don't know. But sort of August, September, great months for fishing tears. The humble maggot, you can't go anywhere without maggots, can you? I've got some fluorescent maggots here, nice and bright, fishing in deep water, so anything bright usually shows up better, and perch will love these, perch and skimmers. So maggots, as long as they don't attract small fish. And then casters, which I've done these myself this morning. I like to have a mixture of colours. Look, there's white, there's darker ones, I prefer that with casters, and I can decide what colour is fishing better on the day. The darker the caster, then usually the sort of the lighter in weight they are. But there, I love my casters. They're fresh this morning, but I still put water on them, because otherwise they will turn during the day. So once you've got your casters to how you want them, then just add water there and they will stay like that the whole day. Hemp, once again, I use big hemp here. It's deep water, so nice big hemp. This is what I'm going to use to fish with tears. So I'm going to use the hemp, loose feed the hemp, and hopefully the fish will take tears. But nice big hemp that drops through the water quickly. Once again, very fresh, did it this morning myself. Once again, put water on it, otherwise that'll dry out. So just a bit of water on the hemp. There. That's it, that's our bait for today. I'm now going to cup in. I've got mixed up my ground bait. I'm going to cup in very, very rich. 3 balls probably, 3 or 4 balls. Very rich with a little bit of chopped worm and lots of casters. Wonder how long it take to get a bite. When you're cupping in, always pick a far bank marker so that you're going in the same place. But always drop your ground bait. Don't let it get wet. If it gets wet and you're in deep water, then it's already ruined. So I like to drop it just from a little bit of a height. Makes a noise. Fish love noise. Doesn't hurt. They know it's going to be food coming. One more ball and that's enough. So 4 balls, good. Feels like a good fish. Probably a roach, is what I've come for. This one I caught on maggot. Sometimes keep swapping baits. Oh, a lovely roach. Typical of this river. Just good quality fish. That's a big roach. This is what we've come for. It was a maggot roach. Maggot's usually good to start on. Always start on maggot and then switch to tears later. Lovely, just hooked him in the lip. There. Look at that, beautiful fish. Got a single caster on the hook at the moment. And what I'm doing is I've fed at 8 metres, so I'm trying to get on that, but all I'm using is my 7 metres to hand. I've got 6 metres of line. That lets me swing. Say if I catch a 3 or 4 ounce, I can swing that in just holding this 7 metre section, because I've got elastic. I've got a number 5 elastic through the tip. That stretches a bit, so I'm just waiting. There's a bite now. Ooh. So I'm just waiting until I can just swing that in, I can slide that pole back down, I don't have to unship. Sometimes that's quicker. I had a bite then, didn't even touch the bait. So I'm going out, just swinging out onto that. So I'm going 1 metre past onto that where I fed those balls of ground bait at 8 metres, and then loose feeding, I mix my casters and hemp together. So I'm then loose feeding hemp and caster together in the same pouch round the float. The caster is for what I'm fishing now, and the hemp really is in that hope that I can get the fish on tears later. I'm just going out, fishing just a little bit over depth. Single caster, 16 hook. Got an 011 fluoro carbon hook length, and the main line is 016. You don't want to fish too light. 016 is good. This float's a 2 gram float, so quite a big float. So not necessary to. If I need to bring my float back right over the ground bait, then I'll put this other section on. So I can lift it, come back over the ground bait. And then it's not really, it is running a little bit, no wind to interfere with the line, so I can leave the float past the pole tip. So I've come back over the ground bait, just let it just trip back very, very slowly. The sluice itself, Denver sluice, is down to my left. Sometimes that's affected by the tide and they run a little bit of water off. But in the summer, usually it's just very, very, very slow. Little bite, then tiny bite. Still got to fish fairly careful for these. They are streetwise, even though they're wild fish. They seem to know when there's something wrong. Well, the float just lifted then, came almost out of the water. I don't know why. It weren't a lift bite because it didn't. Almost like a fish had touched my Olivet. There's a few fish starting to top now as well. But already catching some nice roach. All the time I'm loose feeding, just making that, the fish will hear that noise of that bait going in. And every now and then I'll come right back over where I've cupped those rich balls of ground bait in, right over it. The fish actually grabbed it then. There's a few bleak here interfering with the bait, so I could see a fish grab hold of it then. But all the time I'm going to keep feeding. Little signs there's fish there. But I know as the day goes on it'll get better. Already had some good roach. But really got to work hard to catch them. Even with that pole at 7 metres and my line at 6, see, I can just slide that behind me, so it's quick. And then if you just flick the pole under your arm, yeah, that bait had been done, the caster had been done then. And then the cast is so easy with these take apart whips because they're light. So light and strong, you can just, especially casting a 2 gram float is so simple. I'm just hooking that caster through the pointed end so it sits nicely. So when I cast, all I've got to do is just lift the pole up, sort of make sure your rig goes in properly, correctly, so it doesn't tangle. So it wants to be about 1 metre past my pole tip, right where I cupped in. And then when you feed, bait it just started to go then as I was going to feed. You can just pouch of castor and hemp over the top. 1 or 2 fish topping as well. There's a bait, just almost the start of a bite then. Don't be too quick. I'm on castor. Sometimes they're big roach, so you might have to wait. Often a little bit of teasing does you good. Just lift your float, drop it, and just watch. Often you get a bite just as it drops back. And always at the start of a session, it always takes a little bit of time to get the fish really going. And I know I'm going to be catching later on, it'll just get better and better. Deep, wide river, so the fish can be anywhere. The float's drifting, so I'm not feeding on the float, I'm feeding over the ground baited area. Just letting the float drift down a little bit. And then every time come back onto your feed. And the whips, because they're so slim, they're not affected by the wind. But hold them like you would a normal pole, almost like you'd hold a rod. A lovely bite then on the drop. So, just a simple way to fish, a nice easy way to fish with a pole. Don't have to fish too long. The pole is so strong and then just flick out to cast. All you do is just flick out. Hold your pole in your arm like you would a rod. It's so light, can't even feel it. And then when I'm feeding, I just rest it. I just rest the pole on my leg, trap it with my arm, so then it leaves your hand free. Another bite on the drop. Small fish this, so small bleak I should think. There might be a little roach. Well, bigger roach than I thought. Just on the drop. As I'm feeding, there's loads of fish taking the bait. So I'm hooking that caster just through the pointed end, so it actually sits in the round bend of the hook. Always about feeding. Fishing's always about getting the fish feeding, and always be confident in what you're doing. It's going to attract the fish in the end. Right over that ground bait now. Another bite on the drop this time. I've set the float up so that it's, if it doesn't settle, I've got 3 number 8 droppers, so if it doesn't settle, so I'm watching as the float goes in, I'm watching for those 3 droppers to take up, and if they don't take up, it means a fish has got hold of it on the drop. So it's reading the float. Now this time it's just settled. 1, 2, 3. The float's down and the bait is on the bottom. Hasn't been intercepted on the way through. As I'm loose feeding, there'll be loads of fish taking on the drop. Just catching on caster at the moment. There's quite a few of these. This is a silver bream. Beautiful fish. You can tell. I've just slipped the net under this one. I could. It's almost a lifter, but I'll slip the net under it. If you look at it, some people say that they're skimmers, but if you look at it, lovely big black eyes, gorgeous, and a very distinctive line there, through there. Lovely, beautiful dark back. Took caster. So I'm loose feeding hempen caster, hoping that I'm going to catch on tears later. Let's see, just slip that one in the net. I think this will be a nice fish to finish on. I've switched over to tears now. I was catching really well on caster, those silver bream. And then a few bleak moved in. And now I'm fishing with, because I've been loose feeding hemp with caster, the roach in particular, they're all roach. When you're fishing tears, they're a lovely, lovely summer bait. I was thinking, oh, it's only a small one, but I can't lift it. It's about a 4 or 5 ounce roach. But this is a quality that you get with tears. Just a single tear on a 15, oh, look at that fish. On a 15 Sphere Classic hook. I've got the Olivet well up and droppers well spaced, 2.5 gram float, and fishing just about 4 inches off bottom. But it's a roach every put in. And a lovely, beautiful fish to finish our session on. So a bit of catching on caster on the bottom, cupping in, loose feeding hempen caster, and then in the end switching over to this lovely sort of end of summer, early autumn bait, tears. Guaranteed to catch roach every time. Brilliant days fishing.